Hey everybody, this is Giancarlo Aulino reporting for Fighters Only magazine, and in this feature, we're going to be catching up with some of the MMA legends and UFC Hall of Famers that have paved the way for the current landscape of the sport. I'm happy to be joined by my guest today, who is an absolute legend of the sport, UFC Hall of Famer, former UFC Superfight champion. He's the one and only Dan the Beast Severn. How you doing, Dan?
Just another crazy day in Crazyville there, John. I mean, enjoying life, making things happen on a daily basis. So
That's great. And Dan, good to just start with and reflect on the UFC, just what the sport has become now. We have deals where they have broadcast rights deals with Paramount, $7.7 billion. They're going to be going to the White House now. You started in a time when it was no holds barred and they were banned from pretty much everywhere, it seemed like. So when you see how the sport has grown and there's going to be an event at the White House, what are your thoughts on that?
well, I think it's definitely has gone full circle. So from being this barbaric sport that you had a lot of different politicians and legislators, especially from the state of Arizona. You had Senator John McCain, that was one of the biggest advocates trying to do away with this barbaric type sport that was taking place. And again, for the people that are viewing it, you basically assessed that the only basically two rules that you had to abide by was no biting, no eye gouging into the rules, no time limits. They wanted ultimate victory. So there was especially in the beginning, it was utilized as you would either fall into a category of being maybe a striker or might be in a category of being more of a grappler. Strikers were anything from boxers, kickboxers, Muay Thai, karate, kung fu, and then the grapplers were all either judo, jujitsu, sambo practitioners, or just an everyday wrestler like myself. So, and then with each progressive showing of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, I do believe that there was a improvement in the overall abilities of the athletes, because you now have footage to actually view and watch. And so you're starting to see, okay, yeah, while you're on your feet, you better have some stand-up capability of punches, kicks, knees, elbows. But then if you should get into that clinch position or jammed up against that cage wall or being taken down, you better have some type of grappling ability. And now all blended together. So it's like the morphine aspect of today's athlete. They're just off the scale altogether.
And your fellow or Arizonan there, Justin Gaethje, is going to be headlining the card title unification bout with Ilia Topuria there. He has a chance to become the undisputed champion and close out the White House event as an American holding the title. As somebody who's known Gaethje, does that make you feel proud, that familiarity?
Well, I mean, well, again, I say Gaethje, he's a former Arizona wrestler. So again, it puts me a little pride in there for the fact that he comes with a wrestling pedigree. Although, John, how often does he show that wrestling pedigree when he's out there? It's kind of like going, in the words of Jim Ross, one of the professional wrestling announcer, he puts on a slobber knocker of a spectacle out there because he likes to bang. I have even done some interviews with him in the past, and I go, I have yet to see you use your grappling pedigree. And he goes, I like the bang. And I'm thinking, well, so be it. So be it.
And for you yourself, coming from a wrestling background, when the UFC began, it was the one night only tournaments. You came into the sport making your debut in a one night only tournament. You were 36 years old. So what was your first impression of MMA and just the UFC?
Yeah, I always tell people that I was a whole lot closer to 37 than I went to 36. So I just simply say 37, just because I was only missing it by a couple months. Where you don't normally start a cage fighting career at that juncture in life. You typically would depart from it, but that's when opportunity presented itself, and I only really planned on simply just trying it. I told not a single family member. So I just basically, well, again, the internet era was not as popular as it is today. Even back then, when the UFC was first coming out, they had their videos were all on cassettes, and they were being shown at your local Blockbuster video store. And because I've had more men tell me that that's how they discovered the Ultimate Fighting Championship in the very first place. They just happened to be in Blockbuster Video, and they saw this, crazy looking box cover type art, and they went to watch it and became hooked onto it. So even at my own home, a person had basically sent me a copy of a videotape, and when I put it in, I happened to have a couple of my buddies over at the time, and I popped this VHS videotape in. I watched my couple buddies on my couch going rabidly crazy, watching it more than I was watching what they were getting crazy about. And I'm thinking, there's something here, because these are a couple of my buddies, and they're turning into rabid fans, and they've been watching for like the last 5 minutes. So there definitely is something about that era that was really quite entertaining, contagious, whatever you want to call it. But like I said, the sport, the athletes, even the company is now a very well-oiled machine. It's I think it's the biggest sports merger. It's part of the biggest sports merger in sports merger history, where you now have the WWE and the UFC now together underneath the same umbrella of TKO, which I think that was a $300 billion merger. So, and I always tell people that was a B with a boy and not an M. So
yeah. During that time too, like Royce Gracie was the tournament champion. He was beating guys much bigger than him. He had the background that he had, his family's jiu-jitsu, and in comes you, this big wrestler, going through everyone, and then you meet Royce Gracie. Like, I've heard other fighters talk about Gracie, but like, what was your experience like? Because that fight went 15 minutes and it ended the way it did. But like, what was your experience and impression about him?
Well, again, I'm going to speak to it in a couple of different terms, because when I first got there, I had my first impressions, and then as I learned more and more about the company, some of my impressions have changed. And just I chalk it up to education. The more I learn about something, now you make a little bit more educated type of decisions. I always tell people that during the match itself, they all saw me tap, and they said, "You tapped." I go, "Well, yes, I did." And then they being the spectators, they all assume why I tapped. And I go, "Well, you're not in my brain. You don't know why I tapped." I go, "Did I tap because someone beat me? Or did I tap because I was unwilling to do what I had to do to another human being?" My life didn't depend upon anything out there. So it's going, I know what I'm capable of doing. And in my final couple years of competition, I was trying to get one more match with a Ken Shamrock, a Mark Coleman, a Royce Gracie. If I could have had those as my last three matches, would have been well played out, but they didn't materialize. So it's kind of like the one thing, but is it going to haunt me? No, nothing's going to haunt me like that. I know why I made my decisions. I live by them. So,
And I like how you bring that up too, because there's a lot of fighters at the end of their career, they kind of get pushed out the sport because they lose so many times, the way they lose. But you kind of fought like every other weekend. You fought a few times each month. At what point did you decide, like, you know what, this is going to be the time? Like, was it a fight that you had, or was it the year of where you decided that I'm going to make my exit from the sport?
Well, John, I mean, I correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't there an announcement just recently that Kimo Liampolo and Royce Gracie are about to step into the cage one more time. Are you aware or not aware of this?
I don't know. I might be I don't know if it's fake, but I'm pretty sure it's not
Yeah. Well, again,
I don't know the validity of it. So I'll say that.
I only heard about this somewhere, I'll say in the last, say, week or two, that it was brought to my attention because someone was getting rise. I go, well, I'd like to get a front row seat to that one with my little box of popcorn, you know, and maybe, and just maybe I might just throw a little challenge then to whoever walks away as the victor. So, but it's, you know, I mean, honestly, I tell people that, John, it's not that I'm a fighter, but I am a competitor. And I always say that life life is competition. Anyone else that says life is not competition, well, they're probably on one of the lower rungs of life. Life is competition. Everyone competes for the best jobs. You compete for your best mate that you could possibly have. You want the best of houses, cars, the whole 9 yards, and it's competition. But but the reality is you're really only in competition with yourself. So, I'll use an example. I went to the gym earlier this morning. I go to the gym. I do something physically every day, but I go to the gym every other day. I just recently started doing that probably within the last, let's say 6, 8 months, just because I don't have enough time to recuperate between one day working out hard, then going the next day, and next day. Just I don't feel like I felt like I was kind of flatlining. But now that I've changed up the tempo of going to the actual gym every other day, I'm seeing great improvements here once again. But then on the off days, it just means that I'm going to do stuff outside because I have the ability of doing things outside here in Arizona, to where, I've got a little area with some artificial grass down there, to where I'll do my own types of stretches. I'll do a few types of calisthenics there, and there's still room to do sit-ups and push-ups and squats and jumper jacks and whatever your imagination that you can utilize to do. So, most people just need the motivation. So I always say that when you look at, there's a big difference between men and women when they go to the gym. A woman is going to take time to comb her hair. She's going to do makeup. She cares about her appearance of her outfit, the whole 9 yards. Guys will pick up a t-shirt, they'll simply smell it and like, yeah, it's good for one more time. Okay. They smell the t-shirt, they put it on. They don't care if it's at the bottom of the hamper, it's all wrinkled up, stuff like that. They don't care. They're probably not even going to comb their hair, and they're just going to go and just get a workout in and then come on back. So there's that difference there alone. But it's kind of like going, again, I go to an Anytime Fitness just because they've got a good franchise across the entire United States. And I don't have to worry about the place not being open because it's open 24 hours. So I got my little key card. I go in, I do my workout routines, and I get out.
That's great. And like also too, like because after the sport, like you're seeing a lot of fighters get into like recovery, stem cell treatments. I've seen a lot
Yeah.
experiment with that. Have you maybe found stem cell treatments or any other way of recovering that has helped you?
Yeah, I'm actually involved with a few different modalities. Stem cells is just one of the aspects that I have done a great deal of research. I've got a couple other people around me that they actually research stuff even more than what I do. But then there's a hyperbaric chamber. There's a device known as the ECP machine. There's some unique things that I used even during the training camps. Okay, you might find this one hard to believe. I did 2 training camps in 20 years. Now, you find another UFC athlete that can make that comment. And then you look at the win-loss ratio that I have. I definitely won way more than I ever lost in the process. But for a guy that started as late as I did, then to go that many years and to be a lifetime chemical free, it speaks volumes for what I did in terms of, I look at food anymore as almost like medicine. am I eating the right types of stuff to stay as healthy as possible? And I mean, I'll, I'll I'll go off the wagon every once in a while here or there, but for most part, I stay pretty consistent about. If you would have, I still actually have my little midday bowl still sitting on my desk there, where it's just a combination of blueberries and yogurt and honey mixed in there with some cinnamon on top, and then just an assortment of some walnuts and some other types of nuts onto it. And it's like going, and that's all good stuff for healthiness, brain health, other aspects.
It's great. And also, just speaking of health too, as you're in your career, I'm sure a lot of fighters go through it differently and how they recuperate and just how they manage it. When you were competing, you were in the UFC, you're also in the WWE, taking like matches there, then fighting. So, like, how did you manage your recovery during that time when you're constantly in something where one, you can control what's happening to you, and the other one you can't really control, and you have to trust somebody else with your body?
Well, first off, I'll hold this up, and all I'm really holding up is a planner. I've lived out of a planner since I believe my junior year in high school. Now, it was a lot more simpler at that time because in high school, all I was looking for was what wrestling camps did I want to go to that summer and what type of wrestling tournaments was I going to go to, because you can wrestle in folk style matches. Folk style, the United States is the only country that does folk style. The rest of the world is going to be doing freestyle Greco. So I was doing folk style, freestyle, Greco. And then when I got into college, I was doing some judo things here. I was doing some sambo things there. I was doing some submission grappling, non-gi. I mean, so I jumped all over the place just for, you got 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, and a trunk. Basically, I'm just jumping into competition after competition, just trying to test my mettle and to see how well I did in things. So, even now, as I say, I'm a senior citizen, but it's kind of going, I hope that I fall pretty high on the chart as being one of the more alpha males of the senior citizen clan. So
Yeah, definitely.
even the little moniker I come up with, I go, I'm senior citizen Dan, and I'm doing what I can. It rhymes, okay?
It does. And like even on that too, like you're mentioning there, your planner, like seeing what wrestling camps were there. You were an accomplished wrestler. So who were some of the mentors that you had at that time? And like, how did you maybe find the ones that were going to be the best for you in terms of your development as a wrestler?
I mean, I started in relationship to today's wrestlers, to the throwback times that I came up through. I came up through learning about athletics and sports through our school systems. So in in junior high, it's when physical education starts in at 7th grade. So it's like the first, again, I'm not certain. Okay, when did you have physical education, or again, did you not have physical education in your schools?
We had in like first grade, but like in terms of like actual fitness testing, probably
Yeah,
like
okay,
seventh, eighth grade.
no, you not you at first grade you had recess.
No, like an
You
actual gym class. You're just playing
Yeah,
sports. Like,
I'm talking about an actual physical education type gym. So because it's even that no longer is taking place in the United States. Are you aware of high
oh wow.
schools that still run physical education classes?
Oh yeah, all the high schools.
Okay, but normally it kicks in around 7th grade, where you're actually going to go to a gym class, and for the first time in your life, you're going to strip down in front of other guys that are stripping down to put on their physical education outfit. There was a time when uniforms, a lot of schools had to have this uniform of a certain shirt, a certain type of
Yeah.
trunks, tennis shoes, and white socks, that kind of a thing. There, and things have kind of changed more and more, but that was I still remember that was kind of like one of the weirdest things, because for the first time ever, you got, because these were not individual showers either. This was like what I call the big old animal trough. You got this big, huge room, and it's got like about 20 different shower heads around there, and you go in, and doing your thing, getting your shower, stuff like that, and you come on out. Whether you wear flip-flops or something like that, again, that wasn't in the beginning there, but later in life, you start wearing flip-flops and that, and in and out. So those are just different cultures that a lot of that stuff has gone now. Because I still remember in high school, a lot of people that would not even dress up for gym. And yet somehow they passed gym class and yet they never participated. I go, how do you pass a class that you never participated in? Which again, I look at physical education, it should be really more of an elective, but at the same token, learning about health, learning about nutrition should be a must, just so that people know what they should be eating and what they should not be eating, or if they do eat it, at least some of the repercussions of their dietary habits.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Am I going off into too many different weedy types of
No.
situations on the other, John? I mean,
No, it all connects there. It all connects.
Yeah, I always tell people that again, that this is all part of especially now with the internet.
Yeah.
I can Google whatever I want to Google right now, and it's great. I'm still learning about AI.
Yeah.
Because I know once I master that, oh, babe, I'm gonna have a lot of fun there with that. But it's like right now I'm just in my infancy on that aspect here. But it's a great tool, and it's like you've got all the. Yeah, I grew up in an era where you had the Encyclopedia Britannica. You had all these actual books. Now you've got the world at your fingertips that you and I are speaking over a laptop, and having a cell phone there. The electronics that are at our availability that can be used for good and can be used for evil.
Yeah, definitely. So even there, like you mentioned a great point there about physical education. So as you're in the school system, like how were you recruited then for college, and how did you maybe stand out from the rest of the class of wrestlers that were there?
Well, I mean, first off, I'm big about, again, I showed you the planner, and I'm big about setting goals for myself. Again, do I tell anybody else about my goals? No. All they matter is to me. I have my own goals, and even now I still set additional goals for myself. Back then, I just enjoyed being involved in athletics. But I'll say that when I was a freshman in high school, I had found out that no freshman had ever made the varsity team. And so one of my very first goals was I wanted to be the first freshman at Montrose Hill McCoy High School to make the varsity team. And the thought pattern of a wrestler is I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to be this big old monster at this lighter weight class. And that's not exactly how that works. When you start losing weight, you start getting lightheaded, you start feeling pathetic and sorry for yourself. I weighed probably right on that 160, 165 pounds as a freshman. And so I lost weight, and I went down to the 155-pound weight class. But when you are a lowly freshman and you start going up against sophomores, juniors, or seniors, those 1, 2, or 3 years of physical maturity, but then also they have been seasoned year after year of how many matches have they wrestled, how many victories have they had, how many losses have they had. So, I challenged at the 155-pound weight class. I got beat. I challenged up the 167-pound weight class and got beat even worse. I went up to the 185-pound weight class, got even beat even worse. And then the last weight class, the challenge was the heavyweight. And my high school wrestling coach probably should have never allowed the match to take place, but he saw this burning desire that I had, and he allowed the match to take place. And basically, I ended up somehow stepping on the heavyweight's foot. He tripped, he fell down. I fell on top of him. I pinned him. I won. So I made my goal. I made varsity, but I made varsity at the heavyweight weight class. So I even have pictures of me from my freshman year at Macho Simcoe High School wearing the 155-pound uniform and wrestling heavyweights. And this was during the era when heavyweights were not weighed in at all. They
Oh
could
wow.
weigh anything, anything. The heaviest wrestler ever recorded was Chris Taylor at that time, and I think they guesstimated Chris Taylor's weight to be right around 420. Oh, I think 400. Yeah, either 420 to 450 pounds,
Oh wow.
because they did not have a human being scale that went that high. They took him to a animal slaughtering house, and they hung him on, and he hung on the apparatus that would hang like, a big old beef or something like that. And that was the closest they could calibrate it. So again, people that are probably watching this are thinking, what time era? Did they actually have electricity back then? Did they have running water back then? I mean, it is, we're not talking all that long ago, because even the internet era, how much it has improved in just the last couple years, where people think, well, gosh, just Google this, just Google that, and use GPS for this, use chat GDP for I mean, it's a wonder that people even know how to think anymore, because they have all this machinery or equipment that can do it for them.
That's true. And like at that time too, you're doing this, making the varsity team. Like, how
Mhm.
did you get your goal set in, like that you knew you were good enough for after when the Olympics came around, like in the 80s, like when you that set in that that could be a realistic goal for you, like when did you start working towards that?
So my very first Olympic trials was 1976, upon high school graduation. I graduated
Wow.
in 1976 out of high school. I basically went to college at Arizona State University. And I mean, the coach at that time was a gentleman by the name of Bobby Douglas. He he's no longer around. He actually just passed away within the last couple weeks. Um, at 80, he was in his 80s. I just don't remember exactly what his age was, but he was actually a very remarkable person. He was actually the very first black head coach of any program, because there was I've had, over just the last half a dozen years or longer, when social media has become more and more rampant and stuff like that, I would do different types of posts, and somebody would come up there, oh, you're prejudiced. I go, really? Do you know my history? Do you know that I went to college for the very first black head wrestling coach of any of any head? I should say, Bobby Douglas was the first black head coach of any program whatsoever. I go, so how could I be racist? And I go, I was involved with that program for a solid decade. 5 years as a student athlete, because I redshirted 1 year, and then another 5 years as an assistant wrestling coach. So I'm thinking, you think I'm racist, and yet I gave up 10 years of my life working with the man, and I still kept in contact with him through all the years afterward, because he was such a major influence upon my life. So, but that's the same way I felt about even my high school wrestling coach, same way I felt about my high school football coach. These men are all gone now, but they still live on through me and my memories.
It's great that they had that kind of impact on you. And
Mhm.
also it's led on to, like, I wanted to ask you about your Olympic experience. Like, you were a team alternate in the 1988 Summer Olympics. So like, how does that all happen?
Well, I mean, it was again. I have mixed emotions on that, because there was definitely some politics that were involved, and it probably came from, maybe at least one coach, and maybe a few other influential people at the time, to where during the 84 Olympic trials, it was the first time that they ever actually did an actual videotaping of the trials. And if you felt like something did not go right, in your match, you are able to file a protest, an actual written form type of a protest that you could put together and fill out and put in. Out of the 40 some odd protests that were filed, of which I had one, one match got rescored and the other athlete was declared the victor. One match was re-wrestled at like the 1 minute mark, which I mean, it is totally inappropriate to try to think that you could set the stage and only wrestle for 1 minute when the matches at the time were, I think they were 9 minutes long at that time, 3 minute periods. And then mine was simply, protest was simply swept underneath the carpet. So there are certain things that I'll never have any answers on because, you know, some of those men they're gone. So it was just one of those things that as I sat up in the bleachers and watched the gentleman ahead of me represent the United States, his name is Lou Bannock, and Lou Bannock ended up winning the gold medal. And everybody that he wrestled, I had pinned under 1 minute. So would I have won that gold medal? Yes, I would have. So it's just one of those things that, you know, I can't turn back the clock of time. I simply just have to learn to live with things and simply knowing that I continue to move forward. And I try to control as much of my own destiny as I possibly can, but you can't control it all because you still have to deal with people.
Yeah.
And people sometimes suck. I'll leave it as matter of factly like that there, John.
Because the reason I asked it, like, as an alternate, like, how would that have worked? Like, would you have been able to, like, join in the wrestling competition if he got injured, or like, how would that have worked?
Yeah, no. Once the tournament starts up, there's only one athlete that they can enter for that weight class. So, yeah, no, it just once it happened, it happened. There's not like a tag team or anything like that where, okay, you're out now and I'm in now. No, that doesn't work like that. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. Like I said, it's one of those things that I tell people that, you know, had everything gone right for me back in like 1984, I would have retired. I would have retired from the sport of amateur wrestling. You would never heard from Dan Severn. I would never have jumped into Ultimate Fighting Championship, stuff like that. Because again, this is 1984. UFC the very first UFC show wasn't until December of 1993.
Yeah.
So I would have been retired. I would have been coaching at some small university or major university or whatever, high school, and being a industrial arts teacher, and life would have been just fine for me because that was some of my goals that I set for myself. That I had a teaching degree at that point in time, industrial arts, so that as I always tell people, when you looked at that shop teacher's hands, he always was missing an appendage. He always had a part of a hand that was gone. That because, you know, you're working with machinery, saws and table saws and, you know, things of that nature. And I'm thinking, I always tell people that I'm one of those industrial arts teacher. I still actually have all of my appendages still. So yeah.
Because there's a lot of Olympians too, like in wrestling. Henry Cejudo came years after you, Olympic gold medalist. He went into the UFC. Daniel Cormier was an Olympian. He had success. So, like, what would you say about just wrestling as a background to have? Like, why so many become successful in MMA?
Well, a lot of it has to do with work ethic, and I will agree with you that they have done different types of studies on how many different athletes today, I should say, what discipline did a lot of these athletes come from? And the sport of amateur wrestling has produced probably more place finishers, more champions than any other sport. And a lot of it simply has to do with the work ethic and a mindset. Because even though it's a team sport, but it's all based upon individual performances. The team can lose, and yet you as the individual can still continue on. John, for example, I love the sport of football, probably way more than I did wrestling, because every 30 seconds, crash, bang, boom. Loved
Yeah.
it. When I played in high school football, I never came off the field because I was on the offense, I was on the defense, I was on the kickoff team, I was on the punt return team. I never came off the field. I loved it, but it's hard. That's a tough sport. A team sport is tough because you have to rely upon all the other players to do their job as well. So if they miss a tackle, if they miss a block, then you lose. So I simply just chose the sport of wrestling because I can I can control my own personal destiny.
Because now we've seen the emergence of RAF, Real American Freestyle. A lot of wrestlers, this is like a pathway for them. If they don't want to go like WWE or go the UFC route, they have now like a pathway for them. So, like, does it make you happy to see like there is this platform for a lot of these wrestlers to make some money when their amateur wrestling career at that level is over?
Yeah, no, again, it's about time that something came up. The hard part is, did you get a chance to watch it?
I've seen a couple like on social media because we don't have the station here in Canada, but from what it is,
Okay.
like production wise, it's pretty good.
Yeah, no, again, the hard part about wrestling in general is the rules, and for the Joe public to understand, like football, basketball, baseball. I mean, it's pretty. There's enough of knowledge where you should know that. Yeah, in football, basically, you're trying to get the football from one end of the goalpost down to the other thing. Yeah, there's different types of penalties that'll be called, but every 30 seconds, crash, bang, boom. Basketball, you're trying to put the little orange pumpkin through the hoop, on the opposing team, back and forth. But then there's traveling, there's fouls. There's a lot of little nuances that people have to understand about each sport that they watch. And I think that the real American freestyle may have to make a few more tweaks so that it becomes an even more friendlier spectator sport than what it is currently.
What are some ways that they can attract a broader audience, in your opinion?
Well, again, I say changing the rules. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't understand, like well, I mean, go back to the UFC for a moment there. What does everyone understand? Do people understand about UFC? When two athletes start this match, they're on their feet. So the audience understands when they're on their feet and they're moving towards each other, there's going to be some punching, there's going to be some kicking, there's going to be some clinching, there's going to be all kinds of other stuff that's going to be done from what they call close quarter combatives. They don't see how I might be clinching you, but then all of a sudden I slide my shoulder underneath it, and I would jaw jack you to where you bite your tongue, you bite the side of your mouth, your eyes will water on up to. So for those few seconds, I've distorted your mental capabilities to where now I go for a throw, I go for a sweep, I go for a punch or something else. So again, there's a lot of little subtleties, that the average non-athletic fan will never understand. So they're looking for the big punches, the big kicks, and things of that nature. If if electronics continues to advance, you could probably sit in the comfort of your own home, your living room, and you could probably put all these little circular electronic patches on your body that they'll give you this little diagram, and it'll say put a patch here, put a patch here, and all of a sudden it's like the guy throws a choke on you, and you feel the muscles all fire this way. Oh, armor. your arm just goes out like this, and you laugh, but you heard it here first. The way
Yeah.
that video game, they have stuff right now that you can play video games, and the with the shield, the
Yeah.
mask, and you
Driving
can interact.
simulators and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that far fetched to where you'll be sailing on a ship, and all of a sudden it'll be throwing rain and mist in your face, and somewhere there'll be a fan that'll be blowing your hair backwards, and I mean I think that it's only the tip of the iceberg, but I think that a lot of these games will then come with that warning label that you have to sign away your life, because knowing that if you have a bad ticker, it might be just too much for you to play this video game, and poof, you're gone. So,
And also, just want to go back to the MMA for a second, because recently there was Mark Kerr's biopic that came out, The Smashing Machine. Your former colleague there in WWE, The Rock, was starring in that role. Saw Mark Coleman, his character was in there by Ryan Bader. So, what did you think of your era of the sport being depicted on film in a biopic, and like just seeing Mark Kerr's story now to maybe an audience that didn't know anything about that era of MMA?
well, again, I think it's about time that more films are looking into uh, different individuals. I have yet to. I've seen a couple little highlight pieces of the Smashing Machine, but I have yet to see the actual movie. I knew that Dwayne Johnson was basically playing the role of Mark Kerr. So I'll be interesting to kind of watch all aspects. And in fact, that Bader is also part of the movie as well. I know him. He's a former Sunkiss wrestler himself. I don't know if he still lives out in Arizona or not, but I do look forward to one day I will watch this movie, and then I will give it. I will critique it as it's taking place. But I just think that well, the fact that I know a number of these individuals, and the fact that they're all in this movie together, it intrigues me as well.
And it's also nice, like that era of the sport, I think kind of gets overlooked at times. Like you're a part of a group of legends that were among the first to be inducted to the UFC Hall of Fame, and years have gone by, and now maybe more filmmakers start seeing that and make projects around it. Would you be open if they made a Dan the Beast Severn documentary, or is there one that you would like to see if there's another MMA legend out there?
No, I think that there could be different people that should be brought to the forefront because of some unique things that they did. Um, I mean, I'll regale you in a unique type story. I happen to have an athlete that was training at my facility in Coldwater, Michigan, and he always wore sweatpants, and I always noticed he kind of limped a little bit. And one day I had him doing this little agility drill where they were doing like these wheelbarrow carries. So if I'm holding on your ankles, you're doing the wheelbarrow down the mat itself, and then at the end of the mat, I'm gonna push off. You're gonna go to a forward roll and then come right back up to your feet. Well, in the process, when they got all the way across the mat, and when the gentleman with the sweatpants went into his forward roll, his his workout partner that was holding on his ankles kind of screamed out, because when his partner went into forward roll, he still had his leg in his hand. He had a
Wow.
prosthetic leg from the just below the knee and down was his prosthetic leg. And I'm like going, and he was all embarrassed about his leg. I go, well, again, I said, don't be embarrassed. I said, I go, he really wanted to be a no holds barred competitor, because that was just during that era. I go, well, you will not be allowed to wear a prosthetic inside of a cage, because that is a weapon.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel any pain. So if someone throws a leg kick at you and you check it by using this prosthetic, it's never going to hurt you. And if you throw a kick, it's never going to hurt you. So it's almost like you're using a billy club or something like that, smacking somebody right there. I will get you a match. Trust me, I will get you a match. I go, and when I do get you that match, I go, this is how the advertisement is going to go on for the announcer. Folks, you've heard the expression, I'm busier than a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. Well, tonight, and tonight only, you're going to see a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. So, and he died laughing when I said that to him. And he says, you by all means. And I found him a match. And I said, okay, your match is coming up. I go, I want you wear your same sweat outfit that you do. I go, march and go climb right up into that ring because I want everyone to see it. And then you take your sweats off. I want you to hand them out to your second, then pop your leg off and hand that out to your second. I go, the crowd is going to lose their mind. And that's exactly what happened. He did it all perfectly. He went up in there, popped his leg on off, handed on out, and he's just standing there hopping on one leg. And then the announcer went in with that announcement. I mean, the crowd just lost their mind and ended up winning. So it all played out really nice for him.
That's great. And nowadays, like after your fighting career has wrapped up there, like how do you keep active with the sport of wrestling or MMA? Like, are you still training or coaching at all?
Well, no, I travel quite extensively. I do a lot of teaching and speaking. My first love is still teaching the sport of amateur wrestling. That's my number one thing that I like doing. But then it's kind of like with you right here. It's your first time actually getting a chance to get to know me a little bit, but then also get into a little bit of the mindset of who or what a day on Severn is all about. And as I said before, I stay plenty busy. I like the little life that I've carved out for myself, and I'll continue to keep moving forward. It's kind of like I'll be using more and more. I do a lot more research of type of the stem cells and this hyperbaric chambers and things of that nature that would might extend life into the early 100s. Who knows? So I'm looking at that. Got to stay busy and always working on the body and the mind.
That's great. And before we wrap up here, Dan, you've been super generous with your time. I like to ask all the fighters this. If you were to see your younger self walk into the gym right now and he'd see the established Dan the Beast Severn, UFC Hall of Famer, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Well, I mean, stuff like that, those kind of questions do come up at different times, and people will say, "Well, if you could go back in time." Well, I don't have that time machine. I can't go back in time. I'm still looking at it myself as to what's around the corner. What's the next thing that I will be involved in? Is there going to be some senior assistant shuffleboard competition I'm going to get involved into where high sticking and stuff like that is allowed? I don't know. I mean, I say that kind of comically and facetiously, but I'm content with what I've got going. And I like the fact that I travel back and forth between Michigan and Arizona at different times of the year and get to wear shorts and t-shirts almost on a year-round type of basis. So I don't know, like I said, I'd like to show you what the great outdoors are made. It's beautiful outside right now. So it's I like my choices.
And Dan, before we wrap up here, like how can our viewers here, listeners, and followers at Fighters Only Magazine stay up to date with everything you're doing and follow you on social media?
Well, again, you probably know my social media is better than what I do right now. But if you don't mind, just simply just posting it on up at
Yeah.
the end. It's simply to give you a website the website is a little bit kind of like non-functional in what the status that it's into right now. But I do have Facebook, and then I have Instagram and other stuff because I do something on a daily basis. So if you don't mind, just simply just posting something up with this, and then when you're done with it, share it with me, and I'll post up on my Facebook pages so that you get some more exposure off of this as well. So we both get to butter our toast.
Perfect. Appreciate that. Will do. And Dan, I really appreciate you sharing your time and coming on here, talk to me about your career, everything that you've done after your career, and what's to come. Still a lot more to accomplish for you. You're still active, and it's great to see. And I wish you all the best.
Well, thank you, John. I enjoyed the conversation as much. Look forward to the clips of that you send me.